Yo, my Star Citizens and Noob Gamers. Welcome back to another episode of Star Citizen with me, Minix. And in today's episode, I'm just going to go over my settings for the Pimax Crystal Super 50 PPD with my Star Citizen. And it's a long video. I did a little bit of editing at the beginning, but towards the end, I stopped editing because I just thought I wanted to give you guys an unfiltered view of me testing different things and my thought processes and stuff like that. So my final verdict is at the end on what my settings are. So you can skip to the end. There'll be something in the description that lets you jump to the end, the chapters or whatever. So you can see my setup, what I did in the game and what I did on the Pimax Studio thing. And that way you can get those settings if you want. And I got to around 40 FPS. And I didn't want to push it too much. I didn't want to take down too much quality. And I thought 40 was a nice number to be at for me. You can still see some things happening. You can change the smoothing and put that on, and that does give you you'll lose about 5 frames a second, but it does give you a nice smooth view. And so I'd suggest keep playing with it after you've set your settings and see what works for your system. So yeah, definitely, it's a long video, guys, but it's giving you my unfiltered views and thoughts and processes of what I'm doing as I'm playing around with these settings to try and get some frame rate without losing too much quality. So hopefully you enjoy it, guys. Let's get into it. Okay, so first things first, options, get rid of that hint there on the side, that refueling thing that keeps coming up in the game. Right, so we're moving around. We've not got the thing going at the moment. And so what I want to do is I want to bring up the thing. So it's display info 3, we'll take it to the top corner. And display frame graph 1, we'll put that there. I wonder if they can do that with a 3 though. Is there a 3 for that? No, doesn't make a difference. Right, so we've got the graph down here, running at 80 odd, nearly 90 frames a second. That is in ultra as well. So 80 to 90 frames a second. I mean that is on ultra. So my specs of my machine are they're in the description. So I've got a i9 14th gen Intel chip. I have a RTX 5070 Ti graphics card, 64 gig of DDR5 RAM, and a 2 M.2 disk drives. One's I think an 880, the other's a 980, something like that. And so that's the specs of my machine. And my monitor is a 1440p monitor. So that's what I'm running. I'm running at ultra and getting 90 frames a second around here in my anger. So once I turn on this headset, let's see what we get. It may crash with it being on ultra. Let's have a look. Comms here and turn that on. As it pauses, I'll put the headset on and crashed. So crashed when it's on ultra. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the graphics down to auto detect again. There we are. So it turns everything to very high. And then we'll go back in. Oh, actually, before we do go back into the options, back into the headset, and make sure we turn it's off. Yeah, okay, cool. And then back in again. Okay, we're back in. Back in here, guys, and do the same again. Let's remove that, options. And then into here and turn that on and see what we get. Again, another crash. Okay. So maybe them settings we were setting with the Pimax are not taking effect straight away. So maybe that's what the issue is. So if I go to customize here, set that to 1 and apply, and see if that works. It's crashing. Okay, back on again. Let's try again. So what I've done is I've took the settings down to 75 in the other one. Take rid of that first. There we go. Right, we got some bit janky at the moment, but we've got some. Right. Let's get these things on. Display graph 3 and display info 3. So down to 11 FPS. That's really, really janky. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on the quad views and see if that works. If it doesn't change here, I will come back in, close it down and come back in. Quad views is already on. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the quality down to 65. It's getting there, I think. I think I have to reset the device, to be honest with you, every time. I think I have to reset the device every time. I think if I put this on 65 with that on, I think I'm gonna do that. I'm back. And then close that off. Is it 65? Quad view's on. Not getting anything at the moment. Option back here. Crashed. Okay, right. I'm not getting any lag. No messing around here. So let's go on display info and the frame graph and see what we get. Right, okay. So we're getting a good 25 frames a second. .27 frames a second. Now, I think whatever it is I do on this, whatever it is I do on this, on the game itself, I think whatever I do on the game itself is not going to change that now. So if I was to go in here now, options, graphics, and set this to ultra. So we're currently getting 27 frames a second. I think if I was to set this now to ultra, it's not going to change it. The frames a second. back and then on to return, and I should be getting around the same 22 frames a second, 24 frames a second. So I don't think that's going to make, I don't think it makes a difference in the headset, that, to be honest with you. I think that only makes a difference in the game itself. So if I'm looking down at that, if I'm looking down at that there, I'm going options, I think only makes a difference on the game itself, on what I'm seeing on screen, not in the headset. I think the headset settings are different from this, because that's not done anything there. So if I go to change this now to medium, I think that's going to make a difference in the game itself, not on the headset. No difference seems to have happened there. So I'll return to game. I think the difference is only going to be in the game itself. So I think I could run this in Ultra. So it's doing the optimized shadings now. I think I could run this in Ultra for my actual recordings, so you guys getting better recording. You see that my usage there has gone right up. But I reckon I could run this in Ultra, or I could run it in very high, which would give me that, but then take the object detail to Ultra and the texture quality to Ultra as well, and that gives me that. But I'm still getting the frames a second, and it runs nice. I'm getting 21 frames a second at the moment, 20 frames a second. So return to the game. Down to 18. $29. Now if I bring a ship up, there's you on there. I think I could get more frames a second out of the headset if I lowered the settings in the headset. Now that looks nice as it is. It's probably going to look nice on the screen because I think that's set to Ultra on the screen itself, on the monitor of what you guys are seeing. So let me go into the device settings. I reckon if I go back to I reckon I could maybe get more out of it. I took that down to 60. Apply that. And what I need to do, I think, then is take that off, exit this, return to game, options. I think I have to turn the VR off, back, return to game. So even in Ultra we're getting like 90 frames a second. Go to here, and then I think I have to restart the headset. And I think that would then reset the set the things for me. Right, so that's back on. And currently I'm getting nothing, it's just a black screen. And there we are. Controller not detected. I'm not too bothered about that. Now, what am I getting? Now, 22 frames a second. So even lowering it down to 50 didn't make a difference. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually restart the whole game with it at 50 and see if that gives me better frames a second. I think I'm going to be stuck at around 25, 30 frames a second, to be honest with you guys. No matter what I do with the settings, I think that's what I'm going to be stuck at. So let me quit the game. Options. Quit the game. And then I'm going to come back in with the settings lower. So with the settings set with what I've just set, go back to here, device settings, the game. I'm going to set, so I've set this to 50 here. I'm going to see how we get on with that. Now I shouldn't need upscaling. I shouldn't need upscaling because I shouldn't need upscaling. But will that help having the upscaling? Because I've got the upscaling in the game itself. So yeah, where it says restarting the game, I think that's what I have to do, restart the game every time I make making a thing on it. So if I can get a good, I'm going to put upscaling on it, and I'm going to put quality and continue, and I'm going to see what we get with that on the game itself. So because I've got upscaling in the game, people are saying turn off the upscaling, but I feel like you guys can let me know. I'm new to VR, but changes I'm making in the game are not reflecting in the headset. And so I feel like they're two different things. But you guys can let me know. So if I've got upscaling in the game, I don't need upscaling in the headset, is what I've read and been told. But why would you have upscaling in the headset unless you don't have upscaling in the game, presumably? But I feel like they're two different things. I feel like it's two different things happening. Like the screen I've got in front of me has a different, like I can play around with the resolutions and stuff like that. But what I do on the Pimax is just for the headset only. I don't feel like what I'm doing in the game itself is making a difference to the headset. I don't know. So we're back in. Let's get this done. Display graph. Display info. Get rid of that. And then into here, options, comms, turn that on. And back. And protect again. So now we're getting 45. Now, the view I'm looking at here looks terrible. Yeah, it looks terrible, that does. So, yeah, it's not looking great. But I'm getting 45 frames a second. But, like, even the text on the screen and stuff like that just looks terrible. Yeah, so that upscaling made it look terrible. But I'm getting 45 frames a second. So I've gone up by around 10-15 frames a second. It's definitely much smoother with that. Definitely much smoother. But it looks really, really like low quality. So let me take that up then. Let me take the quality up in this device. I don't think it's going to change it here. I'm going to have to reset the game, I think, again. So let me go back up to maybe 75 and apply that. Okay, let's reset the game again and see what we get with that. So we're at 75 with upscaling on. Getting 45 frames a second. If we can get it to look better and get 45 frames a second, that'd be good. Let's do this. Options. Right. Okay. So let's turn this on now. So we're getting 30 now. with 75 and upscaling on. So I think that's a compromise I might have to take. Getting a better frame rate at 75. So I wonder if I drop that down to 65 for the sharpening on. Okay, so let's play around with that then. Let's play around with that then. Frames have dropped a lot there. Six. Seven. I'm getting more. I wonder if I'll get more with that turned off. With that tracking turned off as well. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try this with these settings. We're currently getting 60 frames a second, so we'll take that into account. There must be something happening that's dropping that down by 30 frames a second, so we'll take that into account when we jump this on now. So we'll go to options, comms, enable that, return again, and see what we get. So we're getting around 32 frames a second. Two frames. I could deal with that. I think there's a really good quality to it. We're getting 30 frames a second. Now, if I turn that DLSS off, the upscaling off, and see what happens, am I going to get the same frames a second? Let me check, or is it just going to crash the game? So that's the next thing to test, I think, for me. So I'll always turn this off first so that I can get back in quicker. 100, look at that, 105 frames a second again currently. And I'm on ultra. I am on ultra on my settings. Oh no, I'm on very high. That's why I'm on very high with ultra object details. Right, so I'm going to quit game, and I'm going to try it with the DLSS thing off. the upscaling off. So GPU upscaling, sound quality at the moment, and I'm going to turn that to none. Confirm. Settings on the, I've got the sharpness on, so let me take that up to like 0.6 or something. Confirm that. Now I've turned the fever rated rendering off, so I'm going to check that with it on and off again. So that'll be two more that I need to check, basically. So let's try that now. Okay, back in again. Let's get those up again. There we go. So we're down to 20 frames a second now without the upscaling on. So the upscaling definitely does work. Let me have a look at some stuff. Let me just sort my view out. So we're getting about 25. So we're dropping about, we're dropping about 10. But we're getting about the same look. It might be ever so slightly less quality in it, but not noticeable enough that you know, I'd rather the 10 frames extra rather, because you can definitely tell the difference with the extra 10 frames. So we're getting 24 at the moment. I'm going to take, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try with that back on, and then the fever rated thing as well, and see what we get from that. So let me just do that now. So turn that off, and then quit game. So I'm going to turn that back on now and see if we do get them 10. If we get them 10, then I definitely want to put that on the headset itself as well for the extra FPS. So GPU upscaling, and I'm going to set it to this, and we'll set it to quality and confirm. And then I'm going to cancel that. Now, the thing is you have to pretty much do this all the time. You have to go change one setting. If you change too many settings at a time, you don't know what's making the difference. And so that's why I'm doing this video, basically. so I can go through these and show you these settings. Okay, back on. Let's get these going. Right. So this is with the upscaling on now. So we was just getting around 21-ish with it off. Between 21 and 25 with it off. And so let's have a look what we get with it on now. There we go. Return back to game. So we're getting 33. So we're going up by about 12. With that rendering on, we're going up about 12 FPS, and it's definitely a lot more smoother, so much more smoother. And you can there's a slight difference, very very tiny difference, but you're not going to notice that as much. You're really not going to notice that as much. You're better off with the extra frames a second. And so these are going to be side by side, so you guys can see them anyway, but you're probably not going to see the difference because it's in the headset, not in the game itself. But we're getting 35 now, 35 frames a second with this now, and it looks fine. Everything looks good. It looks really good, actually. So, no issues, I think, for that with me. Yeah, nice. No issues. I think keeping upscaling on. So now, so we're getting, look at about 38 we're getting with that. And so that's good. 38. Obviously, it's not the 80 odd or 100 what we was getting. So let me try now with the quad views and the fever rated rendering thing. So let me take this off again. Right. To the device settings, and then we're going to stick on the eye tracking. And we're going to... So the image quality is 70. We could maybe take that up a little bit to 75 and check that out in a minute. Keep the GPU upscaling on to quality. And we're going to put quad views on, and we're going to put that on to a custom, and I'm going to set it 2025 25, and I'm going to put this down to 75 or 70, the same. And then I'm going to stick this up to about 10. I've applied that and see if we get any better frames with that. Try that. Okay, so we're back in now. Now we've got the quad views on. Let's see what we get with that. So without the quad views, we was getting 34 to 37 frames a second, I think. So let's see what we're getting now. So around the same, looks like. Around 37. That we're getting about 40, 41 with that, like that. Okay. It's about 40 frames a second we're getting. So we're getting about another couple maybe on that. On the quad views. I don't think that's going to matter as much. So that's not going to matter as much, I don't think, the quad views on that. So that's that. I don't think there's anything else we can check. Oh, we need to check, is quad views better than this one, central parential rendering. So we take quad views off and put Pimax central rendering and put that to quality instead, and apply that. I don't think that's going to make a difference as much as well. So let me reset the game in that with that. Right, back in again. Now we've switched over from quad views to the circle view, where you look, it renders in a circle rather than quad views, rather than 4 different views around the edges. So let's turn this on now and see what we get. So we was getting around 40 when we went into third person mode, and we was getting around 37 just walking around here like this. So we're getting around the same. I must say though, I feel like this mode is better for me. I feel like this mode is better for me on the way I can read things and stuff. The stuff on in the corners and that. I definitely think this is a little bit better for me. Let me have a look in this now. So we're looking at 42, 43, around 40, around the same. So we're getting around the same on it in FPS. So I'm happy with that. Now I just want to check this again with the rendering. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to turn off the rendering again. Not the rendering, the upscaling off again. And so that, I think, is the AMD one, and this is the NVIDIA one, the NIS. I can't remember what the guy said it was when I was looking at a video on it, but it was NVIDIA image stabilizer or something like that. I think he said it was. And then that was the other one, the non-NVIDIA card. Okay, confirm that as none. And I think when he did the test, the NIS was the one that performed better. Let's launch that. Now, people tell you not to have it on because you've got it on in the game. But like I said, I think if this now, so we was getting around 40 when we was in the third person mode. If this drops down to 30 in third person mode or 30 around 27 walking around, then definitely we need to keep that on. Because I'm not seeing much difference. If it's very, very, very minute difference I'm seeing in the quality. And again, I could just be gaslighting myself with that. Maybe I'm just thinking there's a difference. It's that minute. I'd rather have the extra 10 frames a second because it's like 25%, frames per second extra that you get in. That's a real big jump for me. It's a massive jump for me. It's so much smoother. It's going to make me feel less queasy. It's going to make my eyes less strained. Okay, back in again. So again, back to the 70, 80 frames a second. And let's run this now. If this drops to around 27 frames a second when we're running around, then we know that we need to keep that on. Do it again. Okay, let's have a look. It's dropped to 5 at the moment. Just let it catch up its thing, while it's doing whatever it needs to do. Let's drop down to 11 with the settings we've got now. That's terrible. 10 or 11 with that. Down to 10. That's without that rendering. That's without that upscaling on. And I'm letting it try and see if it does anything, catch itself up, but that doesn't. Down to 11, definitely. That's a massive drop. That's a massive drop. Okay. That's not good then. So let's drop that back down. Off. Right, okay. Right, what are we on now? Back up to 90. So it wasn't because of anything else that's going on. That's got to definitely be because of that upscaling. So I'm going to put the upscaling back on. If we come back in now and this upscaling jumps us back up to 40, then we definitely want to keep that on. So with all the other settings we've had on, jump that back up to there. Confirm. Okay, so upscaling is now back on. Launch the game. Okay, so let's check this now with that rendering back on. Rendering back on. Oh, should I set upscaling back on, and we're back up to 34, 35, 36. Yeah. Yeah, definitely want to keep that upscaling on. Look at that, 40 frames a second from 10, 11. It jumped up 30 frames a second. With the settings I've got on, putting that upscaling on made a massive difference. Makes a massive difference. Now, there is a little bit of a quality difference in the stuff, like from far away. So when you're looking at something far away, it doesn't look as good. So let me just see if I can change that in the settings here. Options. I'm going to see if I can change that in the settings here. I don't know if that's going to make a difference in the headset itself. Sorry guys if you can hear my Uber in the background. It's just come alive and started hoovering up. So graphics. So when I look in a distance, it's not as great. So let's have a look. Object view distance very high. Can we set that to ultra? Yeah. Let me go back to that again. So that's a very high. Not too sure if there's a difference, but we can set it to ultra. If I set this here to just ultra, first you go auto detect and let it do its thing. And then once it's done its thing, we can work out from there. So that's set everything to very high, and we're getting 37 frames a second still. Now if I set this to ultra, and then do its thing, we're still getting around 37 frames a second in ultra. There we are. I don't think it's done it in ultra, has it? So you've got custom presets very high. got very high. So, okay, right. So 30 frames a second, that's around here. I may have to play around with that, I think. I may have to just set it to the details, but actually that does look much better from a distance now. That looks much better from a distance. Yeah. Yeah, there we are. We're still getting 30 frames a second. Let me just stop my mover, one sec. Right. I had to pause my mover. Right. So there, 40 frames a second, still even on Ultra. I feel like half the frame rate as what I was getting without the headset is still good. Let me pull out a ship. Oh, actually, there's something else I want to do before I do that. I actually want to change on here. I want to test another thing. So I think the settings I've got are really, really good at the moment. Maybe I'm going to take that up to 75 and apply that. And try that as well. So let me just escape. Options. Quit game, quit. Just push that quality a slight little bit more. Actually saying that, I want to make sure the view, variated view, is the same. Oh, so I've turned that off because I liked that one better than the other one. So that's good. Then okay, right. So that's one I want to try. And then there's one more thing I want to try, which is the smoothness thing, and see what we get with that. And then that's it, basically. I'm going to go over my settings. And I'm also going to show you a couple of other things that I Okay, right, so what we've done is I've pushed it up to 75 on the quality. Now, let's have a look around. That has made a little bit of difference. It's made a little bit of difference on the quality. Very, very slight difference, but it is noticeable. What about in this mode here? So we're losing about 5 frames a second. for that extra 5. So you've got to decide yourself whether the quality, extra bit of quality is worth it. For the extra frame rate. I feel like I probably would rather have the frame rate, the extra frames, to be honest. So I'm going to drop that back off, and I'm going to try something else as well. So comes off, turn to game, exit to quick game, quit. Device settings. So I'm going to drop that back down. I might even set it to like 72 maybe, around there. Keep the GPU upscaling on, keep that on. I'm going to try this smart smoothing. So what I need to do is drop that back down to the base level we had, and then stick on smart smoothing and see if that helps. With the smoothness of moving around. So let's give that a go. It says smart smoothing's off there, but you just saw me turn it on. Smart smoothing, apply. Now it's on. So let's give that a go. And that'll be the last one, and then I can show you some settings inside the game itself. If this doesn't work, doesn't make an improvement or takes out some of that frame rate, then obviously I will take that off. But I might push up to 72 on the quality. But saying that 70 was fine on it. I don't think there was any difference in the frame rates when I went below 70. Okay, back in. There we go. So we've got the smoothing on now. And we're losing about 4 frames a second with it. Losing about 4 frames a second with the smoothness. Yeah, about 4 frames. Now, I don't know, is it making a difference? I think that the frame rate is actually making a bigger difference for me. So I think I'll take that smoothness off and put the frame rate back on. If I find it's I mean, it is nice and smooth with my moving my head and that, but this is not smooth when I'm doing this stuff with my controller. But this is smooth, nice and smooth. I'm not getting any issues here with this movement. This is nice movement. But I think I'm probably going to rather have the frames per second. So let's put that back. I will take that off. Apply. I don't think that'll make a difference in the game. I think I will have to reset again. Yeah. So let me reset the game. Oh, and I've left the thing on, so that's not good. I'll take it off in a minute. So we've turned it off now. The smoothness. We've turned that off now. Let's run it again. Okay. Back in. There we are. Right, there we are. Back in. See what we get now. Okay. So we're getting about 21, so there must be something going on nearby. Because we're still on 75, that's why. So let me add that and the smart smoothing, apply that. I'd accidentally left it on 75 on the quality. So I'm going to try it now with the smoothing off on again. Sorry. Let's see if we get that. Hopefully we get it back to the 40. If we get it back to the 40, then I'll leave that smoothing on. Right, back on. Straighten up. There we go, back to 30 frames a second. This time I've got the smoothing on again, just to try it because of the quality thing. So we're getting around 20, 30, 32, 33. And there we're getting about 37. So we're losing about 4 or 5 frames a second with the smoothing. So I'm going to take that off because, like I said, I probably prefer the extra frames. So options, take that off. Again, quit. And then we're going to put that back on and try it again with it off. Keep that at 70. So smart smoothing off and apply that. Okay, let's try that. Okay, back in. Options. Turn off. Okay, back in. With the smoothing off now. There we are. Back in. So yeah, back to the 37-ish. All looks nice. Yeah, the smoothing definitely is nicer. The smoothing on, but I'd rather have the extra frames, I think, for full on. Nice. Alright, so we're getting around the 40 again with that now. I don't think there's any more I can do to get more frames per second. I don't think even if I changed the qualities or anything like that, I would get more frames per second. I may do slightly, but the more you start reducing quality, the more it starts lifting, or the CPU starts doing the heavy lifting rather than the GPU. So I think I'm in a good place. 35 to 40 frames a second, say average around 35, 37 frames a second. I think it's fine for me. It's fine. Let's go to options and graphics, and you'll see like I've still got a little bit of headroom on my graphics. I'm using 13.7. I am in ultra. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to, you can see my frames per second here. I'm going to go over my settings now. So let me just reset this. I'm going to go over my settings on this. Let me just look forward. And I'm going to go over the settings so you guys can see them. So let me do that. In the game itself, setting wise, graphics, I've got the Vulkan on. I've got my monitor resolution there, borderless, no VSync. I've set the upscaling to 66 and NVIDIA DLSS, transformer, upscaling mode. This is what I use in my normal game. Ultra settings. And normally with that, I get around 90 frames per second, which is really, really good. Field of view 100, then all my gammas and brightnesses and stuff like that. And then my motion blur off, sharpening to 60, chromatic aberration off, film grain off, and then the QR code in the top corner off as well. And so that's what I'm getting. My memory usage here, so I've got 16 gig of VRAM. I've got a 5070 Ti. I've got a 14th gen i9 CPU and a 64 gig of RAM. All the description, in the description is all my info on my computer. So 64 DDR5 RAM. And yeah, I've still got a little bit of headroom there on the thing there. So I don't know what it's going to look like when I'm running around in different places, and when I'm up in the sky or coming to new places. But my base rate from around here, where I normally get 90, I've got it down to, with the settings I've got up to 40. I can't change them settings in the Pimax now. I'm going to show you the Pimax settings in a second. In fact, I'll do that now. I'll show you the Pimax settings now. So sorry if this is on my head. So let me bring up the Pimax settings here. And device settings. So updated my firmware. I'm only in there is a new version of this come out actually, this device, this here. So I'm in currently in settings, I'm in 1.44. There is a 2.0 just come out, but I think it's still in beta. So that might have more things on it that you can look at. But that's that. So then we go down here to the Crystal Super here, the device settings here. I've updated it. And so I've set it to 50 Hertz here, room lighting, because I'm in Europe. I'm in UK. I think 60 is for US. The recline mode obviously is if you're lying down. 90 hertz refresh rate, my card should be able to handle that. Screen timeout to 20 minutes for if I put the device down or whatever, if I'm taking a break or whatever. Eye tracking on for the forward-rated view thing, where it makes it blurry around the edges so that it focuses and renders where you're looking mainly, so it saves you a bit of headroom to play with. And I've calibrated the eye tracker. When you calibrate it, you have to look at some dots, a bit like the Tobii eye tracker, same thing. Wear a location reminder, no, not put that on. I've set my IPD, my pupil distance, to 67. There is apps out there that you can get. I'll put a link in the description to one, and that will get you in the ballpark. But if you're having an eye test at any point soon, get them to, even if you've not got a headset, just get them to give you your IPD, and then you've always got it then ready for when you do get one, if you do get one. Similar as Valve Index, I've turned that off. Controller mode, now I've turned that off because I'm not using the controllers that come with Pimax. Unless I'm playing a specific game, then I'll turn that on. But you can change up in the top here, I think it is. It might be in games. You can actually change if you're using any of the games itself anyway. So I've turned it to controllerless mode, which means it's not accessing the controllers. And I think the reason for me doing that is I had the controllers in the different room earlier on, and I was at 1 frame a second. It's almost, so basically if you go out of the zone, you set a zone, a boundary, a safety boundary, so you don't walk into walls and stuff like that. And what happens then is it sometimes it'll turn the view on, the cameras on that are on the headset, so you can see through it, the pass-through mode, so you can see through the camera, and that is really, really, really taxing on your system. And so if the controllers are out of that zone, it feels like you're not in that zone, and then it puts on the pass-through or whatever, and it really, really slows your computer down to, like I say, 1 frame a second or something stupid like that. It is very, very bad. Very bad. So putting the controllerless mode on, it's not going to be accessing those controllers being out of the zone, and so that's what I've done with that. And it's easy to turn back on when I need the controllers. Right, so onto this one, common settings. Like I say, you can set different settings for games, but you're keeping it on the common. So normal view, I've set customize and landed on 70.07 for my quality, and I did take it up to 75. There was a slight increase in quality, but I was losing about 5 frames a second. I'd rather keep the frames per second on that. Overlay rendering, I didn't mess around with that. I've just left it as it is. GPU upscaling. Now, people say, well, if you've already got it in the game, you don't need it in the headset. But I feel like I wanted to test that anyway. And I found, with the settings I've now got, if I have an IS on, which is the NVIDIA one, it actually is much, much better. I went from 10 frames a second to 40 frames a second with the GPU upscaling on. So I'm turning that on and I'm leaving it on. I don't know why people say turn it off if you've got it on in game, but it definitely made a massive difference to me, and you'll see that in the video itself. Sharpness turns off when you've got the GPU upscaling on, and I think with the GPU upscaling I've set it to quality. You've got the NVIDIA one and the AMD one as well. Quad views, so what that does is wherever your eyes look, it will render that area fully, and the area around it will be less rendered. And I wasn't keen on it. I mean, it didn't make much. I think it didn't make that much difference to my FPS, my frames per second. But there was some sort of blurring towards the sides that I didn't really like. I could have played around with the custom settings on it and increased those in the quad view. So if you go to quad view, you can actually change those in the custom settings and the angles and stuff like that and the areas. But I just found it was playing with my eyes a little bit too much, and it was a bit blurry in areas. So I put on the Pimax Central one, and I think that has a ring instead. So you have a ring, and then around it is blurred, and wherever you look, it then renders that. And I found that was much, much better. I could see there was slight blurring to the sides in my peripheral, but when I put my eyes to it and looked, it actually then sharpened up. So I'm happy with that. Smooth scaling, I did try with that. It knocked about 3 or 4 frames per second off. It was nicer, but it knocked a couple of frames off, so I'd rather have the frames. Not tried. Lock half frame rate and hidden area mask I've left on. Large field of view I've left off. And all the slot I've left different, so you can like have different contrasts and stuff for the different eyes based on the colours and stuff like that. In general, I've got the headset as my default, and I've kept Pimax OpenXR on. People are saying to put on Steam XR as your runtime, but I'm finding this is fine. I'm getting around 40 frames a second. I might try it at some point, the Steam one, but then you're introducing another application or another program, and so you're going to have another program running in the background. And for me, is that going to make any difference? You guys can let me know in the comments the difference between the two. I find it's fine. Like I said, if I'm getting 40 frames a second in third person, around 35 average frames per second, then I'm happy with that. The home default, that's just that when you bring it on, whether you have a place where you go or not, and you can turn that off. And then your IPD, you can change your IPD. So like if your eyes slightly up or down, vertical and horizontal. And then local dimming I've put to high, which gives us a nice balance. I did set my contrast, I don't know if I showed you guys up here, to 80. My brightness, sorry, to 80. It was set at 100, and that was really, really bright. And that was making my eyes tired. So I dropped it down and I just give it a nicer contrast. I like that the darker contrasts in that anyway. And so local dimming I've put to high as well. So around certain areas it will look blacker and that. Pass through, that's what I was talking about the headset switching to the cameras so you can see your surroundings around you. Really, really makes it really laggy on your game and can end up crashing it. So I've turned that off because I can just lift the headset up. Active Chaperone, not too sure what Chaperone is, so I've left that off. And that's it, basically. Your motion compensation, I think that's if you have like something where you stand on it and move around or whatever. I think that's what that must be, something to do with that. So there we are. So that's the settings for that, for the Pimax. Like I said, I'm getting about 37 frames a second. Where am I now? Am I stuck inside this lift or something? Let me check. Where am I? Yeah, I'm stuck inside the lift. Right, so how do I get out of this lift? I'm going to have to backspace, I think, aren't I? Yeah, I think I'm going to have to backspace. So it's fine anyway, because I wanted to go somewhere where there's people, because I want to show you some other types of settings as well. So let me go to the hospital and see what we get up there. Brentworth Care Centre. Why am I in Brentworth Care Centre? Good old tiddles. Right. So something else I wanted to sort of show you was some other settings that you have here. Right. So what we are now, running at about 11 frames a second. Not amazing, but there we are. It'll catch up, I think. As long as we're around 30, I'm going to be happy, I think. Around 30 frames a second, I'm going to be very happy with that. Right. So, in my options here, get rid of that hint thing there. That show hints. Gets rid of that. And then return to game. I'm just going to set my thing forward. There we are. Right. So, you guys can't see this, but if I have my F, where is it? If I press F, the floating things that are on the side of my face that move with me, those are on my peripheral, right to the edges of my peripheral. They might not be on the game itself when you're looking. They might be, actually they might not even be moving. They might just be staying there. Same as the text. Let me move that. See, it doesn't look like it. So the graph and the thing in the top corner. Let me just go my mouse pointer here. So this graph up here, this thing in the top corner here, I don't know if I'm actually over it. Let me do this. So this here and this here are floating and don't move when I move my head. When I move my head, that moves, you see how it's moved with it to where the sign says New Babbage? Well, actually, in the headset, it's still over here. It's still floating over here. And that one is still floating over here. So it's them are staying in place. They're not moving. This moves with my head, this one, and this one. And the chats and stuff like that and all this stuff. But this one here that's on screen here and this on screen here don't move with my head. They actually stay. It'll be over here in my headset, not over here. And so that's the same with any menus you put up. So when I put up a menu, let me get my camera and put this through the thing. Right, I'm going to get my camera, I'm going to put it into the thing and you'll get what I'm on about here. Let me spin this round. So I'm going to put this into here and you'll get what I'm on about. Right, so if I'm looking around, you can see the one thing moves with it, the other doesn't. Can you see it? Is it in that one? Maybe. So you should be able to see those just floating there in the thing. I don't know if you can. You see it there, the black one there, and then up there the other one. So you can see they just float. Now, if I go into my menus, if I press my menus, you'll see again the same thing. Like when I move my head in the game, it moves like it's still staying in the center of the screen. But when I move my head in the eyes, you'll see like the actual menu just floats there. You see the menu just floats there, like around. It doesn't follow the eyes or anything like that, or your head. It just floats there. And another thing, so if I go into my options here now, in the screen that you're seeing now, you'll see down here is my thing. But you'll see this is covering the whole screen. You can't see anything. So if I was in the graphics or in this bit here where you've got the VR stuff, if I'm making changes without the VR headset on, you can't see what's happening. But actually, when you're in the game itself, you'll see it floats. You can see the game around it. So anything you're doing is actually, you can actually see it happening. So when I'm making these adjustments and telling you what's happening, just keep that in mind that I can actually see what's happening. You can't because of the view you've got, but I can actually see what is actually happening. And that's so basically that way you get to see then. Or you get to understand what I'm talking about in a way. Right. So that being said, like I said, you can see a black screen. I've just put this back on and I can see it floating in front of me. Let me just reset my character because I'm inside my body where I've been moving the headset. So if I press number 5 on my little number pad on my keyboard, that will reset it. And you can also press, I think, the slash on there to turn off the VR headset. Right. So that being said, like I said, now I'm going to go to here. I want to go to where there's some people around so you can get to see some of these settings as well. And you can see it on yourself as well. Right, so let's take this guy here that's stood. Actually, I'll go downstairs. Right, so when I press there's a button I press that will give me this mouse. I can use, you see how I can move my head? I don't know if you can see that on screen, you should be able to. But I'm able to move that cursor with my head now. There is a version where you can use it with your, there is a version where you can use it with your eyes, but I found that the eye one struggled a lot. It might be better now. If I turned it on, it might be better, but I just found the head one was much better. Right, so I wanted to have people around when I showed you some of these options. Right, so you see these two guys here. I'm going to go to the options up here and up here. And you'll see, so theatre mode, what that'll do is it'll put like a big cinema screen in front of you, and then you can change the size of it with that when you turn the theatre mode off. And then you've got theatre mode distance, how close and far it is away from you, and then automatic switching. So say if I go to the menu, it'll go straight into theatre mode, and when I come into game, it'll go straight into the VR where everything's in 3D. Now, interpolary distance, this is set at 1. So if I turn this up now, what you'll see is once that's done, they all look like little dolls. So if I go back out now, they all look really small. You see that? It looks really small. It looks like a little doll that I can pick up. I don't know if that actually translates in the game itself, but they actually look like little dolls. They're really small. They just seem like so small. And let me go to a place where there's maybe a couple of people. I don't know if you can actually see that. I don't know if it makes a difference, but they actually look like little dolls on my screen. They're tiny. So if I go back into the options, like I said, remember guys, when I'm doing this, I can see things around me. So let's go to here and go back to here and take that up now. So if I take it to 5, now they're all really big, and it just looks weird, like they're all bent out of shape and stuff. So the best one I found was keeping it as what it was, which was 1. And that now gives me a better, they all look normal size, and yeah, it looks really good. Right, so this one, when you normally do it, you'll probably see this as I change it here. If you go both eyes, it's probably now changed to, if I come out of here, you're probably going to now be seeing 2 images.
Can't do anything.
There you go. And that's the left eye and the right eye, so you can see the left eye and the right eye, what's going on with the left eye and right eye. That's what you got, because you've got 2 different images, so that's what that does. And then we'll go back into options. So what you're better off doing if you run a record stuff is set this to fill right eye, and so it'll take both of them, and then the right eye one is the main one. I'm not too sure what monitor mirror mode smoothing does. Not too sure about that, if it makes a difference or not.
I've had enough of you. You're done. Get out of here.
Let's check that. I don't know if that makes a difference on where it moves things around, but I'm just leaving it off anyway. I do record videos, but it makes no difference in the headset itself that I can see. Right, so let's take that back down. Active control model, I'm not too sure what this does. Stable image, on the grounded look, or offset. That looked weird. It's looking at the floor now. Whoa! And then active control model ADS offset, I've left that off. My dominant eye is the right eye. I've set that as my dominant eye for looking down the scopes and stuff like that. Recenter, FPS, ADS on FPS. So when I'm doing first person shooting and good look down the sight, it's going to recenter. Right, so these ones here, the vehicle HUD projections, you can move the distance on. I've left all them as they were. Visor and lens enabled. I've set a thing for that, so you'll see it should, when I do that, it should turn them off. There we go. So when you're running around and that, if things like your visor HUDs are getting in the way, you can turn them off. I've set a hotkey to that, and then I can actually say it in with my Emily. Depth of field, I'm not too sure if that makes a difference or not. Can't see any difference, so leave that off. And then visor lens modifier, so it's set at 36, but I don't know if you can see it. What it does that is it moves it to the center, out from the center to the right. I don't know if you can see it doing anything, but that's, so if I set that to 100, it's pushed it right to the end. I don't know if it's made a difference. Maybe it has. Yeah, it has pushed it too, but then that's way too far for me to see.
Yeah,
I literally can't see that. It might be better for you guys on the game, but I can't see it. But it might be better for you guys watching it if you're watching a video or something like that. So I'm going to set that back to 36, I think it was. And that puts it there for me. It's probably going to put it a lot closer to you. And then you've got the scale to make it bigger and smaller. So I'm at 27, so I can make it smaller. And you'll see that again if I come out. Now it's smaller, you see. So you can make that smaller, that HUD stuff.
I've had enough of
This stuff here. And so it doesn't matter playing around with what you like. Like I said, I can see this happening in the game as I'm doing it. So I'm going to put that back to where it was. And then you've got your morbid distance and stuff like that as well, where you can change your morbid distance and stuff like that. So just play around with those as you want. You can move that UI up and down and distance and stuff like that. Yeah, and you can even do your menus, making your menus bigger and smaller. You like your scale for your UI.
I think it's a bit backwards that more people streamed the last Statable Championships than the last election. People need to get their priorities straight.
Alright, so leave that where it is.
I'll send you a com or something.
Sometimes I think about
Set that lens scale up again.
We're so connected all the time that we're almost disconnected, you know?
You know, you're not the most important person in the verse. There are other people waiting.
There we are.
I want to know what's going on. I want somebody to check my imprint and make sure it's working. They said this shit was supposed to be safe.
No, can't do anything.
And you can just play around with those as you want, and that's that. So I just wanted to show you those settings as well, and playing around with those settings. You only really get to see that when you're in the game itself, like the floating things and that, and where you want things to be. Like I said, the UI can be getting in the way at times, and so that's helps with a lot of that, moving that stuff around. Like I say, it'd be helpful to assign a key to turn that UI off in your settings. There is actually, in the actual settings itself, there is a keybind that you can set. So if you go to keybind here, mouse and keyboard, and there is one for removing that. Where was it? It's in view. Might be in view here. And there's one in here that will say, maybe it's not that, maybe it's down at the bottom. The camera advanced controls here. Reset current view. HUD, where's the HUD? Here.
Same shit, different day.
That's the way it is sometimes. Keep up the effort. The sector is counting on us.
And it. to be in here. So you've got your experimental VR and your recenter, and then your theatre mode, and then visor. There it is. So number pad 5. To turn it on and off.
Hey there.
There it is, that one. Number pad 6 should have said not 5 to turn that off. So if I was to press number 6 on my back thing, once I come in here, back out of here, remember you guys can't see it. So if I press number 6 now, that gets rid of that. But I can also use that and say it in my thing as well. So that's that. So you guys know. Yeah, and that's it, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed that. So I'm gonna log this off. That was my settings in the Pimax itself and the game. And once you've got that settings and you've got your frame rates and you know what you're up to, just experiment and play. The only issue you're going to have is with the Pimax one, any settings you make, you do have to come out of the game. Other than brightness, I found you do have to come out of the game, restart the game, and then any settings there will take effect. But I am running this in Ultra, and with the settings I've got at 70 or 0.70 in the quality, with the foveated view on, and yeah, it's running smooth and nice, 30-ish, 35-ish frames per second. Obviously, I'm going to get areas just like you do in the game. So I can play in VR at around 30 frames a second, 35 frames a second. Or I can play it in non-VR at around 90 frames a second. So yeah, it's much smoother with the non-VR, but I guess over time that's just going to get better anyway. You're going to get better with the rendering and stuff like that. And yeah, really enjoy it in VR. It's so much nicer to play it in VR. So much nicer to play it in VR. Like it's really good. The details and stuff and that. And that's it, guys. So hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to take the point, stick the like button, hit the bell and subscribe notification. If you want to know how to get those things on there, the things that I've got going on there, the graphs and that, if you press your tilde, it's the one underneath your escape key. It brings up that thing there, and then I just press up now because I've pressed it so many times. But if you want to get rid of it, you've got display info 3, you've also got 2 and 1, and if you press 0, that will then get rid of it in the top corner, and hit enter there. That'll get rid of that top corner one. And then again with the graph, you've got display graph or display frame graph 1 space 1. And if you take that to 0, that will get rid of that graph in the bottom corner. And then you press your tilde again and you've got that. Yeah, and you got to decide whether you want that on the floating HUD thing. And that's it. It's really good, guys. It's so nice doing it in VR. And I've just bought myself a HOTAS system, and so I can't wait for that. I can't wait to start playing this with the HOTAS system, and that'll be some more of the videos I do. Now that I've done this video and got some of these settings right that I needed to do, I'd say taking some of that quality down for the frame rates is so much better, because it's a much more enjoyable game then. There you go. Some guy going off to work. Give each other a little bit of respect. And there we are, guys. So I'm going to call this one. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to hit the point, stick the like button, hit the bell and subscribe notification. I do have a reaction video as well, and a review of the Pimax. I'm using the Pimax Crystal Super 50 ppd that Pimax sent me to review and look at. And there is a link in the links in the description for the different headsets with some money off, 2% off if you use the word Noobs at the checkout. And yeah, so if you're into it and ready to get one, then that's it. And there's also a link in the description to get your IPD, because that's very much needed. And yes, there we go. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Take care, guys.